Hi, and welcome, and especially welcome to 2023. So I have been a trip to London in start of December due to a lady writing to me that she had an Olivetti computer from her very late husband, and I could just pick it up. She didn't know the state of it, but it was just there to pick up. So I flew over to London and went on the tube, went up to her, picked this one up, put it back on the tube, and went to my hotel. And then I eventually ended up back home here in Denmark. This one is heavy, but it's been on the tube. We need to figure out what it is. Well, I know what it is. And obviously, as you can see through the t-shirt, it's an Olivetti. This is an Olivetti M24, but it's a laptop. Let's settle with that. It's not an M24, but it is an M24 inside it. So this comes in a very nice bag. I just want to open it up before we start. Take it out, show it to you, just very briefly. And I can tell you the bag is filthy. And it is broken. But if we figure out to open it here, there we go. So welcome to this Olivetti M21. We will have to open it up. It smells really, really damp. We need to see if it actually works. As you can see, there's a CRT screen. And there's a handle over here, so you can slap it around you if you liked to. Trust me, you don't want to. This one is very heavy. The keyboard is even broken. So we need to open it up. So let me arrange the camera, move you closer, and we shall figure out how to dig inside this one and see what gems we have there. This definitely is a heavy computer, but again, it's a laptop. I'm doing this. Let's just briefly walk through it. So the keyboard can be hooked in the front. So when you carry around with the carrying lid up here, you have the keyboard protecting the screen and the disk drives. The first problem with this is the keyboard is broken. So all of this needs to be fixed. Besides that, yeah, this is a locking mechanism that hooks into the side. That's missing over here. So the cable seems just to be very dirty. Fine. What do we then have in here? Up here, it seems that we have some contrast and some brightness controls up here. They're very nice. We have the Olivetti personal computer M21 logo there. This is the typical grille. If you remember the M24, it's completely the same. We then have a reset button, and then we have a light that usually is green, indicating whether or not the computer is on and off. We then have two disk drives here. These are floppy disk, and I must assume 360. These are 5 1/4 drives. They are very nice. I've never seen these type of drives before, so I'm really anxious to see when we come into the computer what type of drive it is, the branding. But there seems to be a locking mechanism up here. So, which means that you can't open it. That's most likely just for protecting while you are traveling with the laptop, I assume. There's a monitor screen there, obviously. If we take it to one of the sides, there's the handle I was talking about. And this is the back. Let's just take the other side first. So this is the second side. And this is obviously, if I do like this, so you can have it stand like that when you are not using the computer, I'm assuming. This also shows us the back of the computer, and I would assume there's like a feet so that the computer could be like a little bit up, but this is also missing on this computer. So that brings us back to the back. And it's the same as the Olivetti M24. There's more or less nothing changed here, more or less. So over here we have the power supply, and we have the power in and power out for a monitor. Weird, right? Because there's a monitor inside it. Usually here you will have the keyboard connector. So as we have a keyboard built in, that is gone. This is the fan for the computer. Down here we have the parallel and the serial. Let me lift it up. Inside there we have 1, 2, 3, 4 bays for expansion card, I must assume. This is usually where you plug in the monitor, the external monitor on the M24. So what's happening here? And then I have a LED here. Let me take a screwdriver. I think I'm supposed to be, let me just do it like this. There we go. So this is just a bay, and in this bay I will assume this is just where you store the cable for the computer. That's kind of like it, right? So as this is an Olivetti M24, I can see 4 screws. So I must just assume that if we screw these 2 out, I should be able to take this top off. If I screw these 2 down here off, then I should be able to move the bottom of it, and that should then most likely give us the motherboard. So let's start with the top and see if that's actually correct. And what a not very pleasant surprise we have here. I see rust all over the place. It's all over. So there's more or less no hope for this computer ever to be able to run, but we'll continue digging into it. But once I took off this plate, noticed here's the keyboard connector. So it's just not visible through this plate, but we can actually connect an external keyboard, I'm assuming here. This is again for the monitor. So it seems to be able to be screwed off. So let's try and find another screwdriver. And this comes off. There's nothing much to see. So I will have to take the camera off. Hold on a bit. And move you closer in, because as you may see down there, in there, there's a ribbon cable. So what this thing here does, it actually takes the graphics card, connects it into this, the output of the graphics card becomes the input of this thing, which then goes in here, sorry, over there, goes in there. So the graphics card must be sitting up here, as we know. Then the output comes and goes back in, and then somehow must be going into the monitor to drive the monitor somehow. So it is really an M24. Let's see if I can take the top cover off, and let's see if there's even more rust. I guess the cover is open, but I must really say that it's really, really rusty inside. But here we had the graphics card, and I can see it's the same graphics card as we are used to. I also can see some of the cables going. So this is the cable we were talking about, and it comes here and goes into the driver of the monitor somehow. We will have to open everything up. I have to rip everything out, because I'm assuming we want to try to sandblast it, glass blast it. in order to see if it actually works. So, and I'm definitely not turning anything on here. So the power supply needs to be checked, and the floppy disk drives need to be checked, and then the monitor. But I'm assuming we need to dig further into this and rip out everything that we can. And then I will have to talk about what we discover. This is more or less an M24. Well, it is actually an M24. It's the same units inside it. But in this specific case, and I will talk a little bit more about it once we have ripped out more stuff, the back pane, that actually is where you can have all the expansion card put in, that doesn't exist. That's an add-on you have to buy. The plugs for it, or the connections, are here, but the board for it isn't available in the computer. So that's an add-on you buy to have extra cards. So as it is right now, you cannot expand this computer with any cards. We need to dig into the computer and rip everything out in order to see how bad it is. I think I wanna put the lid back on, and I think I wanna turn it around first, and just for us to get an idea of how bad it is on the actual motherboard. So let me turn it around and take the plane off. That actually doesn't look that bad. It's definitely not that bad. The casing itself is still very rusty down here, but the motherboard actually looks very nice. And you can see that this is an Olivetti M24. There's no doubt about it. It's completely the same thing. And here we have the keyboard. Over here on this side, this is actually the extra keyboard here. So this one, this cable is for the keyboard. That's taken out of here. So there's actually an extra keyboard. I didn't know that. So once I look at another Olivetti M24, 24 SP, I will have to see whether or not there's actually an extra keyboard down there on the motherboards. Up here we have the water battery, and kind of like looking at it, it is the same scenario. It's leaked on this side, it's leaked on the LED here, and it's leaked onto the legs of the reset button that is here. So that is what we expect. I can also see that there's no coprocessor. There's the Intel 8086 running at 8 megahertz. The BIOS is the first version of the BIOS. This is version 1.1. I've never seen a 1.0 or earlier than that. So this is the first time I'm actually seeing this low version of the BIOS. So this is the high side and this is the low side of this 16-bit thing. Then we have the memory up here, obviously, and the usual components. I have walked you through an Olivetti M24 motherboard many times, so let's not do this again. So what I will be doing, first of all, I will rip out the motherboard. I need to see the casing. Once I've taken out the actual motherboard, I will try to take out the power supply. I will take out the 2 floppy drives, and then we'll see if the monitor is also okay, that I can take this one out, and then we'll see the casing as it is. So let me do all of this. So everything has been stripped out, and I am dirty. You see? I'm doing this handheld just because I think it's the easiest way for me to explain what has happened. So this is the casing, and besides it's very dirty, it's also extremely rusty all over the place. This is the side panel that goes off, also very rusty. And I'll have to sandblast, glass blast all of this. Just a thing I need to do, I need to clip off the fan, because these, let me see if I can explain this to you. Down here, there's a plastic thingy. This is for making it less noisy. So this I cannot rescue it. So I have to clip these off just to get these the power the fan off once so that I can put this into the glass blaster. So I'm gonna do that, take this one off. I also just need to take the handle off, which you have here underneath the handle. Sorry, there we go. This usually, oh, this goes the other way, I think, right? No, I think I was right. It goes like this, and here you have the handle. That was the side casing. Okay, so this goes on the floor now. So let me take the power supply out. Haven't opened it up at all. As you also can see, it's filthy, dirty, and it is rusty. This is the usual power supply that we've seen a few times now. This is the focus typo, LA16, and this is from November 84. Yes. So I will have to test this as I usually do, take everything out, and I need to put it into the glass blaster, that is. There we go. And the cables for that needs to be cleaned. If we have a look over here, well, this is this is the casing where you could put the cables inside it. So that's also needs to be cleaned. Let me just briefly put it up there. This is the casing for the bay for the floppy disk drive, which I have here. So this goes like this, and then there goes the two floppy disk drives that are screwed in here and down there. So this is just dirty. I don't see any rust, so it can just be cleaned. But if I have a look at the disk drives and I do like this, you see, that's not funny. Well, it's not good. And they do turn around. I'm just not sure how to fix it with all the rust, but we'll see. The PCB itself looks very nice. Doesn't seem to be any, dirt or dust or anything like crazy amount of stuff on it. One thing I noticed is if you see them side by side, they're the same from the front, but they're not the same inside. So it's two different models actually. So if I move them down, have a look on the top. There's some rust over here. This is the mechanism in the front to lift all of this up. The other one is not that rusty, but there is something going on the stepper motor over here. Could also just be dirt. So I need to take off the PCBs, have a look, clean the drives. I have sadly no hopes at all that I will have them up and spinning. So I think this is the time where I politely ask if there's any of you viewers that would happen to have two slimline or two 5¼ inch disk drives looking like these-ish, that could ship these to me. I will be happy to take them off you. Thank you in advance. This is the cable for it, also needs to be cleaned obviously. This over here, this is the back. This is how I, well, so everything is backed up. So these are the screws for the CRT. This is the cable bay. So that was, where was that? Lost it up here. So this belongs together and so on and so forth. So I keep, this is for the PSU. This is for the CRT card itself and so on and so forth. There's a lot of bags down here because there were screws all over the place. And it's not 100% the same as the Olivetti M24. But let's briefly have a look at the graphics cards. The graphics card is the GO318, which is the version 1 of this graphics card. This is the same thing that goes into the Olivetti M24. And as you can see, this is the 16-bit, been talking a lot about these, so if you want to see more of that, you can have a look at one of the other videos I have on the channel. This is, as we saw in the beginning, this is the motherboard with the CPU and the RAM and the BIOS, the keyboard controller, this for serial, and this is the interrupt. This is floppy disk controller. Here we have the water battery, and let's see if I can focus on it. There we see. Yes, it has leaked, and it's only leaks to this area of this LED, power LED, and over to the reset button here. So that's how it usually is. So I will rip this off, snip it off, and then I will rinse this area in vinegar, white vinegar, and then it should be all good. If I look at the other side, there's usually nothing going on the back, due to the mere fact that Olivettis were brilliant back in the days, because the board sits like this in the computer, which means that the water battery doesn't leak up on the board, but downwards. Perfect. Good design, Olivetti. This is the, all the casing around it. I will have to scrub these and wash them and see how clean I can get all of this over there. What's left? Keyboard. I haven't opened the keyboard up at all yet because I'm a little bit afraid. But I will open this one up. I will take all the keys off. This is the typical keyboard as we know from Olivetti's. There's nothing special with this. The only special thing about this keyboard compared to keyboard 1 is that the 10 numeric keys are up here, whereas they are over here on this side. Besides that, same keyboard. Nothing is different. So I will be able to hook up a keyboard 1 to the unit if I wanted to. I will, as I said, clean the keys also. I need to figure out how to open this up as it was broken, and I'm expecting I just need to unscrew this one and find the same one over there. That should be able to, then I should be able to take off the back cover and take the keyboard out and rinse it. If you want to see how to do all of this, there's also a video about the Olivetti keyboard 1 somewhere on the channel. That leaves us with the last thing, which is related to this cable. This cable is the one that goes into the graphics card. The other end goes into the monitor, or the CRT. And it actually looks very nice. I don't see any like big problems, so we could actually be very lucky with this one. I've been moving this very carefully around, so I don't want to break the neck of it. It looks fine-ish. It's a little bit rust about this area. This is the high voltage power area. So I will need to figure out how to get it out and have a look inside all of this and see if there's anything that is suspicious that I need to take care of. Let me be honest, I don't know anything. I'm afraid of CRTs, high voltage and all that stuff. So I'm not touching much of this, and neither should you if you have the skills. So if this doesn't work, if I think it's not gonna work, I don't want it to blow up in my face. Look at my hands, so nice, right? I have another friend who then can have a look at the monitor to see if it works. The cable, very dirty. This cable which goes to the graphics card over there, that one was just sitting, let me turn it a little bit around, down there. So it was in there. And the red cable line, that was at the bottom. But this is also marked like this, so it should be easy to get this one in. Sorry. There we go. That's it. I will now use a few days to clean and to scrub and to go to the glass blaster and try to remove rust and stuff, and then I shall come back to you and we will have a status about all of this. So 2 days after, this is the mess, but it's all clean now. And if we have a tiny look, I just wanted you to briefly see what I've been up to for 2 days. So this went into the glass blaster, and as you can see, all rust is gone. And I have even coated it, so it shouldn't be a problem with rust anymore. This is the bay that goes here somewhere, which is for the cable. So let me, this goes somewhere on the side. I can't really remember how it was. I think it was like this, it goes here. So let me take this away briefly, and we shall have a look at all the other stuff. So the motherboard is also good. I removed the water battery that had leaked a little bit over here. So this is being cleaned. The graphics card is being cleaned. The cable for the graphics card is being cleaned. I haven't done anything yet to the monitor, nor the 2 floppy disk drives. Let me just, they're in there. And the reason I'm not doing anything to the floppy disk drives is because I have no hopes for them. So once we have assembled this, tested the motherboard with the power supply, which is over there, we can then test to see if they're running. If they're not, I don't want to do anything with them. Then I need to find another solution. All the plastic has been washed, cleaned, and nice. And there we go. I think I said that there were 4 expansion possibilities. I have looked it up. It's only 3. So 1, 2, and 3. So this is just an empty bay that has no purpose. That was the bay for the cable. This is the top, and this is then the bottom, and also washed, obviously. I will give them a good thing of this, clean them or prevent them from getting damaged by the sun. So I will have to do that also. So let me put this over here. There's a lot of stuff going on, and over here we have the keyboard. I briefly just wanted to tell you a little bit about the keyboard. So this has been stripped. These are the keys, these are the stamps. I'll take one out, you can have a look at that. This is the cover, the front goes up here. And this is then the back, which is then the front cover when you close the computer. Remember, this was broken over there, I was missing. This is the other one that actually goes there, like this. And then it can move to lock it. If I move the camera a little bit closer, you can see like this. I'm assuming, let me just put it on the table and see. I'm assuming I can 3D print this piece, produce a new one. So I need to do that also. Back to the keyboard. I just saw this, Ducati. Wow, is that a city or is that the car? And here again we have 1184 for the keyboard. I have taken care of the cable, so I wired it on this, put some hot air on it to keep it here because it was very loose. So I'm hoping this will stick. This thing is just the thing that was between the top cover here and the bottom cover. That goes up there. Let's have a look at the keys. Here, all clean as they can be. And if I open up this bag, let's have a look at the stamps. I said this was the same as the keyboard 1 and actually keyboard 2, and it is. It's the same stamp. They don't have the same clicking noise, and as you can see, they're gray. The other ones, keyboard 1 and keyboard 2, have different colors. So there we go. That's that. So I just need to assemble this back, 3D print another one of these. And then comes this mess over here. Sorry about this. This is the other project. I don't know if you recall, just before Christmas, I had this up and running and figured out the hard disk was broken. So I'm now trying to get a new hard disk inside this HP computer, but that's for another video. So we left with this, the power supply, sorry, the fan. Usually it's an AC fan that's in the computer for the Olivetti M24, but in this case it's actually a DC fan. This cable, I had to cut it. I can briefly explain that this is actually AC voltage for a fan. In here we have, I don't know if you can see it, but this is actually to clip into the fan if it was that kind of fan, but it isn't, and I had to take it out because I also had to put this into the glass blaster to remove all the rust. The same went for this, and it came through here. So this was coming out of there, and I couldn't get it through, so I had to cut it. But there's no usage for this, so I will actually take it all away, desolder it on the board down there, because as I said, no usage for this, so let's just get rid of that. So what we are left with now is I need to test this power supply to see if it actually runs, or to figure out what to do then. I need to assemble the keyboard, and once I've done that, the goal is for me to take the motherboard, and I will leave it on the table because we need to test whether or not that one works. And I will then take this one. It goes actually the other way around, so it goes like this, and then I will mount it, put some power to it from the power supply, and hook up the, this is the graphics card, so I'll just hook up a regular monitor to it, and then we can see if this is working. Once that's also tested, I can then finally hook up the monitor and the floppy disk drive to see if it also works. Once that's done, I can assemble everything. So there's still a long way to go. So let me remove all this, and then let's test the power supply. Let's see if we can get the power supply up and running. So let's test it. I had a brief look at the inner of it while it was disassembled, so there shouldn't be any issues. It doesn't look like any capacitors are leaking or anything. So let me just briefly test it, and as I am a little bit scared of power supplies. You shouldn't be playing around with power supplies if you don't have at least a minimum of knowledge about power supply, because it's high voltage, right? So let that be a warning from here. The first thing we need to do is find somewhere to hook stuff up. So I could actually, hold on, we had the fan, right? That was a 12-volt fan. So that can actually take the power from here, which means we can test 12 volts on this rail. I thought we should take up the broken hard disk also and put that in, just to give it some load, right? It's not that needed. The power supplies from Olivetti back in the days, they were actually very solid, and until now I have only had one power supply that didn't work from Olivetti, so that's nice. Let's leave this. Let's find some probes that we can test the power going in. So let's put this up here, and let's do the 12, sorry, let's do the 5-volt rail, which is here. There we go. So we're testing 5 volt on the red line here, which also provides 12 volts and 5 volts for the hard disk. We will then test 12 volts on the fan to see that that's running. If this is running, we can also test it on these. We have ground and 5 volt here. This is, it goes to this famous thick cable that eventually goes into the motherboard and also provides voltage for the graphics card and the 12 plus and minus 12 volt for the motherboard. So let's see if we can find some power. I don't have that much hope for this power supply though, because everything was so rusty. But let's just see. Let's put some power to it. Maybe I should turn it on the back, and let's see if we can see the voltage there. Should I take the a little bit further down? There we go. Let's see. Hard disk, this one 12.3. It's a little bit on the high side, but it's fairly okay. And if we test up here, ground, and then that should also give me 5.3 volts. So power supply is good. Let's try to get rid of all of this. Let me move in the motherboard, and let's try and test the motherboard with the power supply before we assemble it. I want to test the motherboard here because it's easier for me to test if it actually works. Instead of putting me into the casing, that's gonna be too tight for me in a small computer like this. So let's do that. So I told you that we are gonna test the motherboard, and this is the cabinet. And I told you that I was gonna test the motherboards outside, but I decided actually to test the motherboard and the graphics card hooked in. I have it over here, so I will put in the graphics card, and then I will also put in the motherboard on the bottom. And let me just quickly do that, and I will mount the power supply over here. So let's do that. So I guess we're ready to turn it on. Let me take the camera a little bit around so you can see if anything happens on the screen. Let's see. Hold on. I guess it's the moment of truth. So, well, I tested everything. Every wire is hooked up. The graphics card is in, the motherboard. I hooked up a keyboard, just a regular keyboard. Not gonna test the built-in keyboard yet. I'm not going to test the CRT over there. I'm just testing with a regular CRT monitor from Olivetti that's connected up here. So with a little bit of luck, we should have some blinking on the keyboard. And usually there will be a beep, and then something should show up on the screen. Maybe the screen will have to take a little while before it's warmed up. Let's see. I'm turning on now. The keyboard is blinking. I hope you can see it. That was the beep. The keyboard stopped blinking, and we have something on the screen. That's nice. So as now the motherboard, which I cleaned, is working. The graphics card is also obviously working. This is inverted color. That's just due to some BIOS settings on the motherboard, because this is the CRT on the actual screen is a black and white, which is usually orange colorish. So that's why you have it like this, I'm assuming. So it sees the revision 1.1 BIOS. I did make a dump of both the high and the low one, and I'll put that on archive.org. I'm pretty sure it's already out there somewhere, but now it's also on my archive. Put something in the description where you can download that. If this is gonna work with the screen and everything, I will assume that I'm gonna put in a newer version of the BIOS, maybe the newest one, but we'll see when we reach that far. So as of now, it sees the Intel 8086, and the memory has passed. There's only 256 megabytes. I think that's a lie, because I counted the memory chips on the board, and I think it should be 640. So maybe the dip switches are wrong. We'll have to turn around. We'll have to have a look at that. It obviously doesn't see any floppy disk or hard disk, therefore the primary boot strap is not working, so it cannot boot. But the computer is running. That's nice. Next up should probably most likely be, let me hook over here for a second. We should spend a little time on these two rusty ones. Have absolutely no hopes for them at all. I'm more afraid that they will they'll be broken and stuff, but we'll hook them up. We'll have to see whether it works or not, both of them. And if not, I actually have the newer version for the real Olivetti M24, not with this hinge, but the clicking mechanisms. I got two, so maybe we can put that in if not. And if they're not working, and some of you out there have one of these or two, please contact me. That'll be lovely. Thank you. So I think we should turn the computer off. I want to screw in a little bit more. The power supply is only one screw. There's no ground connected to the power supply. We have two, let me find them. We have two ground cables that also needs to be hooked in to the unit. So let me mount all that and then come back to you, and let's test the two floppy disk drives. So I guess it's time to look at those floppy disk drives, which we have two of, and just a very brief look at the model number. As I can see, it is, let's see. So the floppy disk drive is called 5401A, and it's okay. This is revision D. And the other one is also 5401A, and then okay, and it's revision, I think this is a B. And they are both Toshibas, as I can see, yes. And I had a little bit closer look at them. I have opened it up, both of them, and I cleaned the controller board and I cleaned the head. It actually doesn't look bad inside. The only thing that I can actually see that is different between the two boards is actually the driver motor here. That's the only board that is different, this, with these two different versions. So I guess I will try and hook them up over there at the computer. And for that purpose, we need the power cable. I'll just hook them up. I put a floppy disk drive in both of them. I will. I have made these are crappy disk. Well, I can spare them, it doesn't matter. I put DOS 3.1, 2, or 3 on all of them, just to have a few to test. So let me hook this up temporary in here, and then we'll see how that goes. So let's put a DOS disk drive in both of them, just to see if we can get anything out of it. And let me just very briefly test. So this, according to the cable, there's a crossover on the cable. So this should be drive A, and this should be drive B. And let's just try to start it up and see what happens. All right? So let's do it. I just realized I haven't put in a keyboard. It's not connected, but I can see that if we go down there, it is now trying to boot. from the floppy disk, and over here it's actually booting DOS 3.3. So this floppy disk drive is okay. Let me just shut it off briefly. Hook in the keyboard. Just so that we can test, let's turn it on again. The keyboard is blinking over here. You can't see it. I know it's way over there. It's still booting. Nice. On floppy disk drive A. Let's move in the keyboard. And if I move the camera a little bit up, a little bit down, I hope everything goes in. So it asks for the date. Keyboard is working, and let's do dear. Perfect. Let's go on B. So dear B colon. Should be this one. So dear B colon. Oh, sorry, I said semicolon. Dear B colon. There we go. It is trying to do something. I heard a click, but it's not doing anything down there. So maybe let's try another disk. Retry. I can hear a click, but it fails. So I will say that it seems that the floppy disk drive B, or this on the bottom, that is not working. So let me briefly turn off the power and swap those two drives around, just to see if that has any meaning at all. I mean the cable, so I'm just swapping the cable around. And the disk drives, let's do this, putting this on top. Which now means we have the floppy disk drive. This is now A, which was the one on the bottom before. Let's turn it on again. I hear the click again, but no lighting. And nothing happened. So this drive is bad. Let me, I don't want to do anything with this floppy drive because they are really crappy. Well, they're rusty and stuff. So I will just leave it as it is. Eventually, when I get hold of another drive like this, I will put this one into the unit. So let me build this casing and put that in. And then all that is left is actually to get the CRT installed and see if that is working. So, as we can see, the floppy disk drives are in. This is A. This should be the working one, if I haven't screwed it a little bit up. B is not working, as I said. I just shoved in the monitor. I hooked up the cable, unplugged over there. Sorry, over there is the, let me just, there's the other monitor, but that's unhooked now. And then I put in the cable way in the back, and it comes up over here and goes into the actual CRT screen. So all that's left now is to step away and turn on and see if everything blows up. So let's try that. And look at this. Let me zoom in and move down. It's actually working. This is amazing. We have a monitor that's working. It's very bad. There's a lot of burn in the screen, but nevertheless, everything is working. So I would say we have a success also. So what's left? Well, you see, what left is for me, let me just move this camera a little bit up. So what is left is just for me to actually screw this in. Let me turn it off. To screw in the monitor. I'm not gonna touch this monitor for a while now because it's hot, because there's a lot of voltage in it. So I'll just leave it up there. Maybe I should turn it on. Hold on a second, because maybe I should try to see how this goes. I did put some deoxit on them, and it's actually also working, both of them, right? Yes, it's perfect. So I will hook all this in. I will then go over and I will then find the cabinets, put everything into the cabinets, hook up the keyboard, which is, we saw that is also working. And then I will wrap this one up, right? Thank you for staying this long. This has been going on for almost an hour, but there was a lot to do with this rusty one. I want to tell you a tiny bit of a history. So in August 1981, IBM released their 5150, the first PC running at the amazing 4.77 megahertz. Almost 2 years after, Olivetti decided also to come into the market of PCs or XTs with their Olivetti M24. Around the same time, or more or less the same time, Compaq also came out with a clone of the IBM 5150 with a Compaq portable computer, also only running at 4.77. Olivetti's came out with 8 megahertz, so almost double the size of the frequency. And they had the 16-bit implementation, so the CPU connecting to the peripherals card into the computer and to the RAM and other accessories were 16-bit, whereas the other ones were only 8-bit. So around August, September, maybe October, I have difficulties finding the actual date. Olivetti decided in 1983 also to release the portable version of the Olivetti M24, naming it Olivetti M21. And this is what we have here. It came with this 9-inch screen. This is an amber screen, and it has a lot of burn marks, so it's not that good anymore. But nevertheless, it's 40 years old, right? Almost. So the cool thing about Olivetti, not only did they have from my perspective, a cool design of their computers, but they also were thinking ahead. So when they built the M24, they were already thinking about a portable version of that same computer, because when we looked at the card and the power supply and the external stuff inside it, it's completely the same. They were already thinking this also needed to be a portable computer. And this is the result. What an amazing computer, also running at 8 megahertz. I had a little bit of a struggle going through this computer, as you saw, it was really, really rusty, like crazy. But it's fine now. Put it into the glass blaster and we have fixed it. And everything is now nice and neat. There are a few things that I can't fix. First of all, the B drive, this one is broken. I had a look at it and it seems to be the reading head that is broken, sadly. So this is a no-go. I need to wait until I find another one of these. Hopefully somebody will hand it one over to me. We'll see, I hope for. Thank you in advance. And another thing is the keyboard. It's broken, and it's broken two places. First of all, the clip mechanism to clip the keyboard in, as you saw, there are only 2 screws there, but there are no screws up here. There are clips. These clips are broken, so therefore the keyboard doesn't hold together. I've been looking all over internet, and all the computers with the Olivetti M21 I've seen, this one is broken. So it must be due to the fact that it's sitting in there and the strain of all of this breaks this keyboard, sadly. But that's just how it is. The other thing related to the keyboard is that the clip here on this side that actually locks into this side when you shove this one over, there was a clip. I have the 3D drawings made, but I haven't had the time to print it on some plastic that's hardened enough and is black. Currently my 3D printer only prints silver gray, so I'll wait until I get some black ones and then I will add the missing one in there. So this is why you see it now without it. This is 2023. Sorry, I'm tired. This has been a long journey for me. This is 2023, and once again, I want to welcome you into the new year and hope you have a nice 2023. I'm obviously going to produce more content for my YouTube. I would really encourage you to make comments on this video or follow me on YouTube. This way I can get the knowledge of Olivetti computers and the other computers that I'm showing you out to the world, getting more followers, which then helps the channel heaps and months. So please subscribe, please like, and please do some comments for it. It's raining now. It's January, so that makes sense. It's bad weather here. But with that, I just want to once again thank you very much for staying this long, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.